is indeed a pleasure to welcome you to our PD session for today. At this point in time, we all have been doing some variation of online learning for, believe it or not, almost a year, very soon to be a year. And we have in that time recognized to a much higher degree the value of the media that we use, the videos and the ways of incorporating the real world into our classes. So it is truly an honor for me today to introduce you to Denny Chang, who is with COSI, and he is one of our project coordinators, and he has pulled together a pretty amazing panel to share with you. So thank you, Denny.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Judy. Today, I'd like to discuss, as you see here, the title, Cross-Disciplinary Approaches to Incorporating Real-World and Course-Aligned Media Library Resource Interviews. So what does that mean exactly? We all, as Judy said, have some sort of media in our courses, and this kind of explores a little of what else you can do, how you further expand from your typical lecture or just an introductory video to your course. And today, I'm joined by 3 faculty who have built courses with us with amazing content, very unique and very, very impressive, and lots of fun to watch, to record. And I think they are a great resource to students in those courses. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Stella Quintero, Dr. James Ward, and Sheryl Heiden. These are all faculty that have developed or are developing courses with COSI, this fully online course development, as well as media that goes into their courses. Lots of faculty have done a lot of videos with us, but these in particular went a little bit beyond your standard set of videos and have really created what I think is really interesting and appealing to a lot of other faculty who might think about how to incorporate an interview or a special guest, things of that nature. So what's the value of video, right? Student engagement is very important in an online course. It promotes learner engagement. Students are going to watch the content. You're going to be able to track the content. You can see who's been watching them. And you can actually even ask questions within the content. So you're going to really know that they are watching, they are getting the material that you have created for them. And this is really important, whether it's in your module, in your unit, however you structure it. We try to make sure that this all aligns to your objective of your course in that section of your course. The other thing is that it supports those learning objectives, right? So what are you assessing? What do the students need to know? What are they going to know by the end of this section of your course? Videos and in particular interviews are really, really, really helpful to get students to that point. Interviews in particular obviously are different than just your standard video. You have a resource, a benefit, someone that is related to the content in your course, to your program, to your degree, to your college. These interviews can be reused in other courses every time you teach it, or every time you teach another course related to the interview. This is a great resource for you to build for yourself and an instructor. And in some cases, a department or a program can share this library of videos among its faculty. When you incorporate video interviews, what do they really bring to your classroom, right? They provide insight to students of a location. So places that they might not be aware of, companies, fields, research. There's a lot of things you can cover by having these interviews of a professional into your course. Again, showcasing careers, positions related to the degree, things that they may not have thought about. Spotlighting research and talent in the department, college, university. This is something we've recently done with Sheryl for her biology course. There's a lot of stuff going on students might not be aware of, things that could be available to them, as graduate students or further down the program. This is a great way to spotlight what is going on around them and they might not be aware of. And also hearing from FAU alumni. During these interviews, we have come across a lot of FAU alumni, and a lot of the questions that we asked in the interviews, you were in that position of the student currently watching this video. What would you say to them in that position, or how did you go from graduating from FAU to where you currently are? And that's great insight, I think, for opportunity for students to hear from fellow FAU alumni. Great access to important leaders. I think we've covered a lot of important people throughout the years here, and from executive chefs to CEOs, COOs. I think one of our biggest or most popular videos is the Chief Operating Officer for Seminole Gaming that has, I believe today in the last year, almost a little over 1,200 views that video alone has gotten. So it's a great, amazing resource to have to bring to the students in course. Learning about how others work in the field, learning about positions, professionals, what does their day-to-day entail. This is things that you might not always find, just reading a column or a web page, but you ask questions just specifically for your students in your course, and that is, like I said, it just continues to be a great resource for them and for future students every time you teach this course. And then finally, it brings perspectives to students. They might not be aware of the type of positions that are related to this field or to the things that this degree is related to. And to actually see it in action is really helpful for students as they go through your course. So definitely an important role. Here I have highlighted a couple still shots from some of the most interesting and unique experiences as we've created some of these videos. About 3 years ago now, Stella Quintero began developing an online course with our department, and she had access to amazing people in hospitality. So we began with, executive chefs at local resorts, restaurants, hotels, casinos. It just went on and on. And in this particular instance, you see, we actually even went to the source. So a lot of the chefs, for example, would talk about how does their business work and where does everything come from. And here we covered where their food came from, the local growers, which actually is a little bit further west from the university here. So this was a unique experience to see how they ran their business, how things are changing, and as either the chef or the farmers, what they are experiencing themselves in the business of hospitality. With JB here, we have some very unique interviews. We went on location to a lot of resorts, a lot of hotels, and almost all of them had FAU alumni. And that was very, very big as far as being able to have that experience go through from one student to the other. We went here in the middle is City Furniture. They are one of the biggest local companies that hire FAU graduates. They do a lot of interviews on campus. And we actually met with all three people. One of them graduated from FAU in the 80s, and then the other two were recent graduates, and they spoke about their experiences and what their collegiate path took from not necessarily thinking of hospitality or business or working in the human resources field where they are now, was really, really impressive of how they kind of told the story of their experiences and the business and the things that they have learned in these positions. There's these great, amazing facilities in hotels and restaurants that maybe aren't easy to get to, to spotlight, to showcase the work environment that FEU alumni are in now as part of the program. Back of the house at a casino or restaurant, I feel like those are environments that we really don't get to see, and that this would be a place where a lot of them would be working in. So definitely a great resource here, as I'm not sure how many videos we've done now, but it's quite a few. And for hospitality, the hospitality program, they've actually shared their library of interviews with their faculty. So anyone teaching these courses can just grab one of these videos and put them in, as well as partnerships on their website. A lot of these companies rely on FAU, and it works great with it being able to show their employees, but also representative of what the company is and what they're looking for. And then most recently, we've recorded research at FAU. This is a great idea by Sheryl Heiden, where we actually met FAU researchers and visited them and see what it is that they were up to. Here we went out, I believe it's out west in the Everglades somewhere. It's not far from campus, but this researcher is tracking snails, native snails versus invasive snails. And they just go out and then come back and then just track what their findings are. And we went out there early in the morning. And again, this is all FAU researchers and students working in their field. Again, in the Davie campus, same thing. You see, all the things that are going on that they might not be aware of when they just go to their class, or if they're online students, they might not see these opportunities of what other students are up to. And you guys feel free to talk a little about what these experiences been like for you. What was the feedback you've received from some of these videos, and where you think some of these could go from here?
Denny, I just wanted to say quickly that your team and the quality of the videos that you do, I mean, our partners are so impressed with how the end product looks to start with that many of them have asked if they could share those on their actual organizational website. So that goes a long way into selling it. I wanted to start with let everybody else chime in, but it's a fantastic looking product.
Yeah, I also want to share that, for example, when we did our interviews, our class, my worst flaws are maybe the driver to this. I'm very stubborn and set on my ways. And I refuse to be a talking head for videos for a class. So that's why I wanted to do something more alive and more dynamic that included things that could be used over time because they are the core of many concepts. And so something very interesting that happened to me in the experience was with Chef Andy at the Boca Resort. I was very, very used to sort of interviewing him in class because we were there a lot and I know him very well, and I ask him so much all the time. So it's always a pleasure to be around him and at the Boca Resort, but I knew what he was going to say. When we went to Bedner's farm, there was a totally different story because I knew some things, but in the process of doing this project, this video, I learned so much of additional things I could incorporate, additional things I wasn't aware of. So it was incredibly enriching just to go through the experience.
And if you could speak to where you got the idea for the researchers at FAU videos and how you came about finding those researchers.
All right, all three of those that you showed are graduate students on the Davie campus. One of the problems I see with online classes is that undergraduate students have a little connection to the campus and therefore even to FAU, so they may not feel as loyal and the sense of belonging that we have for on-campus students. So part of bridging that gap is to show them what goes on in the halls of the campus that they wouldn't even see as an on-campus student as well. So there's a lot of, we often hear about big research breakthroughs. There might be a well-funded large researcher that's doing great work. He gets in the news, you get a little tidbit in the news on some great research that goes on, but there is so much little but relevant research that's going on in among the graduate students. So we picked those three, and there was another one with the owls, which was a citizen science project, so even more relatable, that that were right there in Davie. And I think all the four that we filmed are very relevant to what's going on with climate change, which is the focus of one of the focuses of our course, and also with Charlie and the birds to what's going on in an urban ecology setting. So hopefully relatable to the students and give them a sense of what goes on at FAU, and then bring in that feeling of belonging, that feeling of pride for the institution that they're going to.
Excellent.
Denny, I was going to say, when you teach long enough, you want to enhance content, and people that teach know after a while you say something and the students kind of look at you, and then someone comes in from the outside, says the exact same thing, and it's like a light goes off. And that's what we really want to get, is that light going off. So part of the crux of what I do for our program, so Stella, myself, and all of our colleagues, we all have industry experience. We bring that into the classroom. So on top of that, we get all these industry experts in the field to kind of expand upon that. Now, for our students, even if it's a minor or a major, there are a certain number of hours they need to complete before they graduate. So when we interview these individuals, part of that is they're looking for students to come work, possibly while they're going to school, or also once they finish school, they want to start a career with this company. So it's great exposure. And I think the better part of it too is the students see this video. We send a link out to the video and we say, hey, Hilton's coming to class next week. And then they go, oh, that's the person for the video. And then they go out to the Stein Pavilion and interview with them. So it all kind of ties together in our program. And I think it just really enhances our content that much more.
Can you guys talk a little about how you approach someone to agree to record these interviews with you, and what do you tell them?
Let me start, because I want to tell you something that is very important for anybody who is watching this. The first thing that I want to tell you is that you can have an idea, right? But at first, I was personally afraid to even mention it to you guys, because we are used to having so much red tape and so much protocols and guidelines and rule books and all of these. So you're like, well, but what if I want this, but so I was very afraid to ask. And then I started mentioning to Judy, who I was working with on my class, and she's like, we can do it. Let's see how we can make this happen. So the more she will tell me, let's see how we can make this happen. Let's get Danny involved. The more my mind started to fly, and I was like, oh my gosh, we can do this. Oh my goodness. Oh, and it has continued to fly, as you know, Danny, that I have a whole list of things I want to do. But it's really important just to kind of, for anybody who is watching this and to whom this might become a resource and an idea, to know the amazing team and support that is at the center at COSI. So that first and foremost. Second, because we work so closely with people in the industry, and the people that we interviewed are people we work on a regular basis, is not so difficult. So we just ask them. We just tell them this is what we want to do and just ask them. Now, when I went to Bednar, that was a different story. I had to come out of the blue, out of nobody. I teach at FAU. Can we come and record this video? It was a difficult. It was difficult in the sense that I didn't even know who to ask, but the response was immediate, was very helpful. I was very welcoming. So I think you just have to ask. I mean, the worst you can get is no, right? So you go to the next.
And Sheryl, how would you say you find these graduate students? How did you come across the research that they were working on? How did you know about that?
Well, at the time I was working as a lab coordinator, and so I knew the graduate students, and I always ask them how they're doing, what they're doing, because I find it very interesting and they have great ideas. So I've found over the years that when you ask, just like Dr. Quintero was saying, when you ask, people want to tell you because this is what they're doing. This is important to them, and whoever whoever's interested, they're willing to share. So finding the students was just sort of part of my job. Getting them to agree was just about asking and finding the ones that feel comfortable on camera. And even we had a shy girl too, and she was willing because it was so much part of what she was doing, and so much of her heart and soul has gone into it. So she wants to share it.
And can you speak, all of you, about some of the feedback you've received from students in your courses, if any?
Well, what Stella talked about, I just want to say one more thing about that. It's easier for us because they see the quality of the videos, and I think there's a little jealousy there when they say, well, how do we get involved? How do we do this? Like, what's the process? The feedback's been really good. And one thing I kind of touched upon is because we have so many students that are minoring, we have so many students in the university level of college business aren't exactly sure what they want to do. And you mentioned this before, Denny. They watch a video who someone on camera goes, you know what, I was sitting in a class, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and this company came in, and now I do this with this organization. I mean, that checks off every box for us. When a student sees that, goes, I can totally relate to somebody who sat in the same class I'm sitting in right now and wasn't sure what they wanted to do. So those options that are out there are just fantastic.
With our students, you never know well, like they tend, for online classes, they tend to see what the assignment is and see what they need to complete, and try to do as minimum as they can just to get that accomplished. I think that is not unique to any major field, age, generation. That's human nature. Okay. To me, in terms of class, to me is extremely satisfying when I get in the assignments or in an exam a comment about the video on that topic that mentioned, like Chef Andy was talking about such and such and such. So that is the greatest reward. But bigger than that, with these particular videos I did, we were able during the pandemic to extend and share them with high school teachers that are completely lost looking for content, with whom we work on a regular basis, and we were able to share them, and they were able to help also these high school students that are interested in the field of hospitality, perhaps, or that are at least taking hospitality related classes. We were able to share that content because it was that high quality. It was something that we are proud to share. It's not something we just kind of made in the back of the garage. So it became extremely versatile. It became something much bigger than the original intention was. So I think that versatility, flexibility, that is just because of the quality of the content and production is really what is outstanding.
And some of the feedback that I got was from the advisors of those students, and they were very pleased about the sort of being able to wrap that research into just 5-6 minutes. That's also a tool that they can use to recruit more graduate students. In addition, speaking to what Stella just said, the group that I'm addressing in the online course are mainly freshmen, and they may have an aversion to science and may have never realized how much actually you can do with science and within science, and how much that actually connects to the real world. And so these videos can give them that sense as well, since we're going to parks and we're going into places and we're addressing problems that are part of their lives as well.
Keeping things as current as you possibly can. I think that helps as well. We go do these videos, and if there's something happening in industry that's just getting started, everyone in our case seems to be very open to sharing that information with our students. So I think that's great as well.
Do you guys have any tips for faculty who might be interested in undertaking this type of production and incorporating it into their courses? The things that they should think about, reaching out, or how to ask the questions?
But the first thing I will tell you is kind of like how I feel. When it comes to creativity, the sky is the limit. You are only limited by what you let your imagination reach. So don't be limited to just what is always been done, to what you have always done. I always remind myself, if you keep doing the same things you've always done, you're always going to get the same results you've always gotten. So try to get out of that regular traditional comfort zone where you are. My mom says, to your attorney and your doctor, you have to be like in a confession, right? Like with the priest. The same thing with your team. We have to really have that level of um, communication, open communication, because you are going to translate our ideas into the content that is going to amaze everyone, right? We are going to bring our expertise and ideas, and you are going to put it together. So we have to keep those communications really open, and have to really tell you what we want, how we envision it, so for you to channel it. So those will be the tips that I would say. Like, don't limit your imagination, and be really, really open, and have a good communication with the team at the coaching center.
I would add that if you're starting this out, the advice I would give you is, when you find a partner that you really want to collaborate with, go ahead and really give them as much information as you possibly can. If you want to give them, a lot of our partners ask for specific questions because the red tape seems to be, like Stella said, it's on their end, it's not on our end. So they'll look at these questions. And then my suggestion that I think we do really well is it's conversational. So we know the attention span of students and people in general. Like if you want to do a 25-minute video, I don't recommend that. What I recommend are shorter bursts where you go over these specific ideas or concepts or questions where students get little pieces. A 25-minute interview, I don't know if it's going to get as viewed as much as you would like. And Denny can tell you from when we started doing this, we learned that the hard way. Like this great 15-minute video got a lot of praise and people said, but I didn't watch the whole thing. So it's having a plan, going over it with them, and then getting there and saying, this is what we're going to talk about. If you want to add anything to it, that's great. And you just kind of let it go and relax. I can guarantee you most of the people that you're going to interview at first are going to be nervous, and it takes them about 2 minutes to relax, and then they're fantastic. But it's as upfront as you can be with them about what the goal is on our end, why we're doing this.
Yeah, and a little practice run doesn't hurt. So that we know what we're going to say, but then it can go naturally from the initial practice.
Cheryl, you know what I will do? I will actually write a series of questions that I will send to Denny, and then I had them on my phone. And when the camera allowed me, I will just double check I was on the right track to make sure I covered that, because I had, of course, the learner outcomes on top of my head, learner outcome one, etc., whatever it was. So I just check on my phone. It could be a piece of paper, but I like my phone. To check on those questions that help you be prepared, and have sort of like a backup plan too, in case. I had one of the interviewees that was very straight to the point, and it was hard to get him to elaborate on things. So it gives you a little bit more of an advantage to be prepared.
One thing I would ask is, how do you find more? So how do you find more interviews? We've been doing this for some time now, but how do you, like JB said, you keep it fresh, keep adding more to your courses. How do you find, a new industry or new area where you have not previously touched on, or do you just kind of update what you've already done?
I'm fortunate in that my colleagues, especially the one that is on this discussion with us, have made a lot of connections in this industry. So part of what we do is we do a thing called adopt a course, where a certain organization may kind of, for lack of a better word, adopt one of our courses. So that helps. But I think the more exposure um, our partners see the end result, the more they want to be involved. And then it may be somebody that sends us a letter verifying hours on a student that worked somewhere for 2 years or is doing an internship, and we reply to that, thank you so much for verifying hours on Stella. By the way, here's something that we do if you're interested. And it kind of starts from there. Like you said, Denny, I can't remember how many we've done either, but there hasn't been a shortage to this point. And I will tell everybody, if you're doing these, always remember that you want to try to make them last as long as possible. So when you're thinking about those questions, try not to put anything current in them. For example, the ones we did at Ritz Carlton 2 weeks ago, we asked them, do you mind taking off your mask? Because think about 3 years from now, what that's going to look like to a freshman student coming and going, why are these people in the video wearing masks? I know it's hard to believe that now, but it will happen at some point. So it's trying to make sure that they're current and stay current as much as you can.
Denny, I will also say a combination of all of the things you mentioned. If refresh the content at one point, it might become, for example, for my food and beverage class, there are new issues. For example, right now the big issue is how many operations. I was chatting with a former student. He wasn't even a student of mine years ago. He's a restaurant owner and operator. He happens to be friends of some students of mine, and he's telling me, this restaurateur is telling me, COVID has been a blessing in disguise because we have made the operation so efficient. I couldn't even think that it was possible. So that is a new thing that is going on. How do you make an operation more efficient? So new content, new, fresh, relevant content, the ghost kitchens, etc. New classes. I would love, instead of an interview, or in addition to an interview for my meetings and events class, I would love to do a tour of the convention center in Palm Beach. I would love to do an interview at a wine distributor about the wine and beverage, the topics of wine. I would love to go to the fishermen, the ones, because that's our farm to table, right? So we have never done that. So there's tons. I mean, that I have a long list of wish list of things I would like to do. Is a matter of making it happen. But we will never be short for content. Just like, and I'm sure Sheryl has tons of other things she wants to transfer. I think the important thing to think about is what is the content we want to create and produce, and then you go back and see how you make that happen. Because it's never, I don't think there is ever going to be an end to that list.
Yeah, and besides being current, in some way, we also might be historical, because some of the things we come across now are specific to our time, but there's going to be a record of what happened. We're actually going to go out to the Picayune next week, and I don't think anybody has recorded some of the vegetation changes except for this man we're going to interview that are due to the sea level rise. What we record may be a point in time that nobody else will see, except for this piece of media. So that's maybe a little bit lofty, but it can, these things can also serve kind of as a historical point, even with COVID.
Absolutely. And we're looking forward to that that recording as well, Sheryl.
Me too.
If we could talk a little about how have you enjoyed this experience? Hopefully you've enjoyed this recording experience. I think they're really unique and they're really special, especially the quality that comes out of it. Can you guys talk about some of the ones that you've really enjoyed?
I think it's like planning a party. You get all of these logistics, you have to think of all of these details, and you have to go through this checklist, and you get kind of nervous and anxious. What if I miss something, right? What if I forget the right glass for my party, right? And then you come to the moment, right? The party, and just kind of like everything unfolds. And you guys are extremely professional, extremely organized. You have tools that we wouldn't even think are possible. Like, we recently did a video with you guys and you had a teleprompter. I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like really like a TV star. So it is such a great experience because you do have so much more than we could possibly imagine, just because we don't know, because we are not aware. So I think it's an amazing experience, and the more I do it, the more I want to do it. It's like it's this adrenaline rush. So it's super exciting.
I get very nervous. I really get very nervous. It's not easy for me to do these, but the interviews that we've conducted, I've really enjoyed the graduate students that we talk to, because I really think they have a window into a subject matter, into a little bit of knowledge that nobody else has, and I want to get that out of them. I want them to be able to share what they've learned and how they're in their little niche, making the world a better place, I guess.
I'm just thrilled to go to some of the places that we have access to and to show that to our students, and just some amazing people, and just to have the opportunity to speak with them in their environment. I think that's really kind of the key thing for us, is to try as much as we can to get them in their environment. I think it makes them feel a little bit more comfortable. But we have just had a chance, and Denny can speak to this because he goes with me to all of these. So we just got to go to some really cool places and shoot some videos, which is really fun.
Absolutely. And I think it's worth mentioning here, and Judy, feel free to jump in, but this all starts with the conversation with an instructional designer, right? So what is your course layout going to look like? What ideas do you have? Who do you want to, let's say, record it and bring into your course, and how does it all align to your objectives? So ideas do begin with your course itself and the discussion with an instructional designer. And of course, then the media team comes in and we talk about how we're going to get this idea through and how we record this, where we go, what's the procedure at this event, at this venue, what obstacles might we encounter. And obviously I think we're fortunate enough to always have them in an environment where it comes out with a great product. You know, it's not as noisy. They'll accommodate us whatever we need in order to get the video done that you want to create. But like I said, it really starts with a discussion with your instructional designer about what ideas you have for your course.
And I will jump in. Thank you for giving me the, the heads up, Denny. I will jump in and say that as we interact together, and I have worked with both JB and Stella, as we interact together, the ideas just kind of start flowing and bouncing back and forth, and coming up with some really cool things. We enjoyed our day out on the farm. But so all of it kind of comes together in that interaction, in that discussion with each other about what's important in your field and how can we bring that to the students.
I feel like these videos and ideas and the courses, it really exemplifies that you are the subject matter expert here. And I think these videos, you know, it shows that they come out great, and it's a great resource for your course. Any other words of advice for faculty who might be considering this?
Well, I will tell you that COSI spoils you. So I had a question that a student asked, and I reached out to a friend of mine who's an F&B director for one of the casinos, and he created a quick video and sent it to me to answer for my students, which is great. And I was like, man, that's all you got? Like, I mean, you get so used to this amazing product that comes out that that's the way to go. And you know, listen, if you haven't done this before, start small. Do a 3 or 4 minute interview, work with the team at COSI and say, this person, you know, I always ask them questions every semester in my class, or they're a great resource to talk about this particular concept or theory. Start there and have one thing to add to your course and see how it goes and build upon that. Because Stella already said, I mean, we always have ideas bouncing around, and it's limitless what you can do.
For whatever is worth too, I also would like to add that if anybody has any questions after after the session today and they wanted to ask something, or maybe just an idea or something that we mentioned sticks in their head, that to reach out. You guys are going to you're going to probably be able to provide them with our email if anybody wants it. But I think it's everything is always better when we do it together, and if we can help each other, if we can support each other, at the end of the day, it's just going to be much better. So we are here. We're all here together in this.
I wanted to bring up one thing. We were asked the other day to come up with ways that we're consciously including diversity, equity, and inclusion in the curriculum. And I think this is one way that you can actually do that quite well, and include the diversity in your student body, in your faculty, and what they're doing, and also in the field that you're working. You can consciously actually pick out people that highlight our diversity, and with this way of this medium.
And I just wanted to put a quick word here that you know, it is great to go into the environment of where you're having your interview. The other options faculty have when they build an online course with us is obviously in the studio. So if you want to just have an interview with one person, or a conversation between people, you can set up a little discussion panel and record that here on the Boca campus as well. But we obviously recommend, you know, going out on location is always makes a world of difference in your videos. And I think we're just about ready to wrap this up. I want to thank our guests today. This is a great discussion, and I hope that it spurred a lot of interest, and other faculty will see this later on and kind of start having those discussions with their instructional designers for any courses they have in development. And it's a great resource that we have here.
And Denny, thank you and your team, as always, for the great work. I mean, it's just fantastic products, and we appreciate it.
And I will collaborate with Denny and say what a pleasure it always is to work with all of you. We are indeed blessed. Thank you.
I'll echo that, and thank you as well, especially for your patience, Denny.
All right. Thank you guys for this afternoon. Appreciate your time.